Hey, welcome to the 7 Days Podcast. This is a podcast where every week I pick a different topic and then examine it in 7 segments. So this week I had a little brainstorm this morning where I woke up a little too early in the morning and got up and grabbed the new segments of the GameOverGreggy podcast and the Kinda Funny Games cast. I am a Patreon subscriber to them, but I like how they dole out the episodes piece by piece, day by day, and I actually prefer listening to them that way rather than getting them early all together. But then I listened to those and then drifted back to sleep, and then I had this dream that I was on like a vacation, like some kind of trip with the 4 guys from Kinda Funny. So they're called Kinda Funny. That's like the name of their team, of their brand or whatever. And it was actually like this weird trip that went real bad where the place we were supposed to be sleeping got somehow flooded. And we were supposed to like just camp out on the floor, but we couldn't because it was all soaked. So we ended up going into this other room where it was all these weird like German tourists hanging out, and it was super packed and crowded, but we just hung out with them instead. Oh, I should say, not coincidentally, I'm at this point in my life where I'm just living by myself. And it's the first time I've lived by myself in a long time, and it sort of sucks, and I don't really like it. So having these dreams about community is probably not so weird. But then I suddenly woke up with this sort of brainstorm about how the community has sort of had an effect on my life throughout my life. But here's what I'm going to do. I am going to talk about that, but only at the end of the episode, because I don't know if you give a shit about my particular life. Sometimes I put these episodes up on YouTube, and I think this might be a good YouTube episode, because I'm going to do just 7 clips from these Kinda Funny guys. It's Greg Miller, Colin Moriarty, Tim Geddes, and Nick Scarpino, who all used to work for IGN, but left to form this side company of their own. And they just have tons of great stories and stuff that I really like. So yeah, I'm going to play 7 different, just random different clips of stuff that I liked, things that stood out to me from their various different podcasts and YouTube shows and the different stuff that they do. And then after that, at the end, I'm going to ramble on and on and on about my thoughts about community and group dynamics and stuff and how it has kind of been a part of my life. If you care, you can stay for that. If you just want to remember some of the glory days, the good old days, the classic stories of these 4 guys, then we'll do that right now. So just recently, like I said, they all worked for IGN. Greg and Colin in particular were really high ups in IGN, very visible. Greg Miller was on the banner of here's IGN, here's Greg Miller, he's our guy, he's kind of like the face of IGN. They all left pretty secure positions at a pretty good job because it's more exciting to go off on their own and do their own thing. And it was that website Patreon that kind of convinced them to do it, where Patreon is just a voluntary donation thing, basically. It's hey, will you donate to us each month? And maybe you'll get some little bonuses or get some stuff early. But it's really just, it's like a tip cup. It's like appreciation. And I'd been listening to their podcast for a while, so right away I was here you go, have $5. And enough people did that it rose to 13 grand. Now as it stands, now that they left IGN and they've really dedicated their time to this, that Patreon has gone even higher. And they started a second one for their games brand where they talk about games, and that's at 20,000 right now. It's pretty awesome, pretty inspiring, and pretty cool. So let's start with that. This will be them talking about why they left IGN, and then about a week later talking about how much work it is and how difficult this is going to be, and how even though it's super great to have your own company and to run stuff yourself and it's all self-directed and fan-funded and everything is super cool, still not easy, still very, very tough.
A lot of things to talk about.
Yeah.
We quit our jobs. We don't work at IGN anymore.
We did.
We did quit our jobs.
We're crazy.
We're insane.
Why would we do that?
We had great jobs.
Yeah.
Great benefit.
We could have been there our entire lives.
We were happy for all intents and purposes.
Definitely.
We've been with IGN for a long time, and four of us in various ways. IGN found me as a freelancer when I was 18, and I'm 30 now, and so it's been, I was an editor when I was 22, and it's been a long, long road, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm very thankful for everything they did for us, and very thankful for all the doors they opened for us and all the things they taught us. And they didn't have to, I wrote a letter to some of the guys where I was just like, you didn't have to do this stuff for me, and I'll never forget that you did it for me. You didn't have to open a door for me. You didn't have to give me a couch to sleep on. You didn't have to give me a paycheck. You didn't have to do any of those things. And so I'm very thankful for that. But at age 30 now, I'm not 18 anymore. I'm not 22 anymore. I just don't really want to. I don't want to keep doing the same thing over and over again.
Right.
I want to like connect directly to the people that want our content and enjoy us, and we can do it without the middleman, and we can do it in the way we want to do it and stuff. So we left IGN on the best of terms.
Yeah, totally.
We'll forever be indebted and associated with IGN, and I don't think we would ever have it any other way.
100%.
Our loyalty to the site is never ending. We want you to keep going there and enjoying that content or whatever. But we think that we can do what we do better on our own. And I think that is why we made this decision. It's a bold decision. We all had totally secure jobs with great salaries and benefits. Like Nick was saying, we had high stature at IGN. We were pretty well known there, and we you have to take a risk every once in a while. The more I talk to people about this since October, the more I'm totally confident that I think we're going to be fine, actually, because even if it doesn't work out, like, you would have never known. It's better to know that we're going to fail than
where
never know.
It comes down for me as well, which is I loved the job at IGN. I love the people at IGN. I don't think I'll ever not consider that place a home away from home. But when you think about the excitement level of kind of what we were doing there and now what we're potentially going to be able to do, it's just off the charts. It doesn't compare, right? We talked about it 6 months ago. We're like, remember that conversation we had? We're like, what would it take for all of us to leave, right? Yeah. Like, let's figure out how much we're all making, and like let's figure out our minimum numbers to walk away. And then we launched the Patreon and saw that there were actually people out there that would give a shit if we left, and that all of that numbers and all that conversation about money just went out the window.
And that's the weirdest thing, is like that conversation never finished. It was never like, oh, here's the number. We were just kind of like, this isn't a thing. Like, that's not going to happen.
In a year, I remember saying, we're like,
in
a year we'll look into it.
We'll see where we're at.
Yeah.
And that's kind of been awesome, right? Big shout out to IGN for being supportive of us, understanding sort of that we need to spread our wings, I guess, is a way to say it. By going way smaller, by having way less resources.
It's the dream, though. I mean,
this is awesome.
It's the thing. It's like, this is what specifically the four of us want.
Yes.
And it's what we want is to be able to connect with them. And in ways that IGN helped us learn to do, but eventually both of those things can't exist at once. It's either...
Yeah, and that's true. And we did get to a point where, there's just stuff we want to talk about, and there's stuff we want to talk about in this format to this audience. And it's just, once you hit that level where I don't know, we kind of hit a breaking point where we're like, well, let's just see what we can do. Mm-hmm. Let's just go take the step, take the leap, see if the fans, or see if the audience, the best friends out there will actually help support us and will be there for us when we fall, or I guess when we fly. I'm mixing my analogies here, or my metaphors.
It's what you do.
Yeah, I do. God,
if you're a new viewer, you'll get used to it.
And just see how it all works. I guess, that's the thing. It's just exciting and weird. IGN, great place. I've been there. I was there for 9 years. I know exactly what every day is going to be. I don't know what tomorrow's going to be like with this group, and that's very exciting.
And it's going to be fun. That's the thing. I can tell you it's going to be at least kind of fun.
Anyway, they're amazing. What was the topic? Oh, yeah, are you guys going to burn out? I don't think you're going to burn out.
Well, this week is definitely testing that theory.
I'm fresh as rain right now. I don't know if you can tell.
Cool. I woke up at 7 this morning and did an interview in the UK. Yeah. Then I'm doing this show. Then we'll do the Twitch show. Then I have a call with Twitch. Then we're going to do the Game Over, the Kind of Funny Games cast. Then I have another interview for another podcast. So that's a long day of talking.
Kind of Funny Games cast today, too?
Mm-hmm.
Jesus Christ.
Strap in. Remember when Kevin Smith said,
life.
You wanted this.
Yeah. Or as I found a great Hunter S. Thompson quote. Because like on Sunday night when we were launching, I was like getting everything ready to launch. I was, of course, a nervous ball of just energy. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what I was watching, but there was a great quote that popped up from Hunter S. Thompson that just said, "Take the ride."
Like, I'm excited for 3 weeks from now.
When we know what we're doing.
It's not a million emails, and we when we were getting ready to launch this, we're like, all right, here will be the production timeline on shows, and then that was all out the window as soon as we hit the ground this week, because it's GameSpot, because of this, because you know what I mean. So like, once we get into a rhythm where we can say, okay, every week this is what it is, I think it'll be a different thing. It'll be more time to breathe. Yeah. But right now, it's wake up and run, which is awesome.
It's great. Again, I love it.
Yeah, it's been cool. Like yesterday was awesome. Like going to GameSpot, walking in, answering emails while you guys are doing the show. It feels like every day is production. Which it hasn't felt like that in my life in a while. That's going to burn us out eventually, but for right now, it's super exciting.
Well, it'll wind down, though, right? I mean, like...
I don't think so.
It's not going to,
but that's the problem, is like, every time people give us, come out and show support at patreon.com/kindoffunny, we have to do more stuff, which is cool. I shouldn't say we have to. I should say we get to do more stuff, right? But the thing I guess we're going to run into eventually is that there's just the four of us.
Our lives are so stupid.
Tell us why, Greg.
You know how we don't have it yet, but a timeline shifted for a project we submitted for, that one with the thing and the spray.
Oh, yeah.
All right, cool. It would be due by like Tuesday, like the live link.
Oh. The live link?
Yeah. So that would be fun if that happens. So we'll talk about that in a little bit.
Well, I guess we're working over the weekend.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes.
All right, clip number 2. Here is a clip I've been holding on to for a while. It's one of the very early things Greg Miller used to do when he was still at IGN, and he was just kind of dipping his toe into this YouTube side business, trying to kind of build it up. So he had a show called Greg Way, where he would just talk about stories from his life. And my favorite one, hands down, is the story of him hooking up a U-Haul and trying to drive across the country in the middle of a blizzard. Super exciting story. And I had planned to make this into an episode of my XO podcast, where I integrate storytelling and music. And I was gonna score it with, I had this like makeout mix that I made, and I was like, that'd be funny to take like all these songs that are for banging out to and use them to score this story. It would make no sense. It would not fit even remotely, and I thought maybe that'd be funny. But that's a lot of work, and I never got around to doing it. So instead, let's put it here. Just the dry audio. We don't need no stinking music. The story is more than good enough on its own. So here's Greg Miller versus the blizzard.
So let's go back to the year 2007. I was living in Missouri, of course. I had gone to the University of Missouri. And after graduation, I went to work for the Columbia Daily Tribune, where I was a general assignment reporter, and spent a year and a half on that beat. Until, on my 13th attempt on my Gmail, I got an email one night at like 9:30 from Jeremy Dunham asking if I was still interested in the PlayStation job. I set up an interview for noon the next day, and at 6 p.m. the next night, I was contacted and hired. So I got contacted, interviewed, hired within 24 hours. That was crazy, especially after, not being able to get a job there or get a response from IGN for 12 emails on Gmail. God only knows how many times on my other email addresses. So when I took the job, it was generally, known, all right, I'm going to be there in 2 weeks. Guaranteed. I'm going to drop my life and I'm going to move from Columbia, Missouri to San Francisco. I had a life in Missouri at the time. I was actually engaged to be married, and so my fiance was going to stay there, continue to plan the wedding in the house we were leasing with a friend, and I was going to move out to California, spend 9 months in San Francisco on my own, getting set up at IGN, and then get married, move her out there, start a life. So I was going to move into temporary housing arranged by IGN when I got there. So I only needed a few things, right? I was going to bring my car, I brought an air mattress, some odds and ends, and that was going to be it. That's all I needed, I figured. My TV, of course, all my consoles. And so I decided, you know what? I'm going to drive out there. I'm going to get a U-Haul, I'm going to tow my car, and I'm going to drive out there. Now, when I told my father this plan, who is like basically, heavy equipment operator, he's like, you've never driven a U-Haul before, you're kind of... That doesn't sound like something you could do. And I'm like, you never do anything till you do it, Dad. I'm going to do it. And so I decided I'm going to do this, and I have two paths pretty much from the middle of the country out to San Francisco. I can go north, or I can go south and take, go up through the Rockies, or I can go down here. And like it turned out if I was going to go down here, and go off that way through like the desert and whatever, it was going to be a longer drive. So I said, fuck that. And on top of that, I should point out that there was like tornadoes and thunderstorms and all this horrible stuff happening in the south. However, up north, there was, of course, this is, February, March, there was a winter snow system moving through. But it looked like I could get around it if I went up there and just like, maybe I would just miss it or whatever. I was going to shoot through Nebraska. So I quit, decided I'm going north to get west. And the day comes to move or whatever. I have the teary goodbye with the fiance. She gets in her car. She goes to work. Take off. Drive, long I-70 out into Missouri. Then start going north like I planned, right? I forget where I banked anymore. It's been obviously years. And I get up to Nebraska finally. And I forget what the one, is it 80? The one highway through Nebraska. Get on 80. And I'm going for a while. And finally it's like, well, time to stop for the night. And so I, pulled off at this hotel. Parked the car. Went in. Passed out. Wake up the next morning super early. Like, I forget, like 4:30, 5 o'clock. And I'm like, this is where I'm going to make up the bulk of the trip. Like, I'm not going to get there today if I remember correctly. I was going to, but this is where I'm going to make, like, that's where I'm going to put the plow. I'm going to get to the Rockies. All this great stuff. I wake up, I go downstairs. All the TVs in the basement of the hotel, or like, the lobby of the hotel are about how, like, there's this huge blizzard coming through and it's going to just wreck Nebraska and, all of this part of the country. And it's not good news. But I'm like, you know what? I'm looking at the map, right? I'm looking at the map, and there's this huge mass that's coming the way that I'm driving towards the mass that's coming towards me. However, I'm up here, and the mass has like this little triangle. So it's like basically a little triangle sliver is going to pass over what I think is 80. I'm not going to check this, but it's going to pass over the Nebraska highway I'm going through. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do it. Because I'm thinking if I can just punch through that, how bad can the triangle, if it's like a storm, right? It's the eye of the storm you worry about. The eye is where it's always the worst. So I'm like, I will punch through the little triangle and just be on my way to my new life in San Francisco. So I get on the road, driving. I'm going like this. I'm listening to IGN and 1UP podcasts nonstop. I had loaded up my PSP, which I used as my MP3 player, and I was loading that up through the radio, and I'm just driving, having a great time. And I get maybe 30 or 45 minutes down the road, and it's like just all snow, and it's just really bad, like whiteout conditions. I'm like, huh. And so I finally turn off the PS, and there's no other cars on the road, by the way. Usually a red flag on the highway. There's not even a truck on the road. Turn off the PSP, put on the real radio, and the real radio is like, get off the roads. Are you stupid? Like, get off the roads. You're going to die. There's a blizzard coming. So I pull off at Dairy Queen. Like, I pull off the highway, and I go off the little ramp to the hill to the Dairy Queen. I pull in there, and it's just all these truckers just chilling out in the Dairy Queen. I'm like, what's up, man? Like, yeah, you can't. Don't go. Like, it's even worse down there. They're closing the highway pretty soon, too, so you don't want to go that way. And I'm like, oh, crap. Well, I'll double back to the hotel I was at, right? Like, I'll just go back over the overpass, back down the other side, and onto the highway, and go back to the hotel I was coming from. So I leave, I come up I'm coming up to the top of the overpass, and I come back down, and I apply the brakes to turn, and there are no brakes. I just keep going like that. It's all ice. The road is all ice. So I just slide past the on-ramp to the highway I was trying to get on to get back to the hotel, and now I'm just on some random exit in Nebraska. And so I'm like, well, this sucks. And like, again, now I'm driving a U-Haul, tractor trailer with all my stuff in it, and then I'm towing a Ford Mustang behind me. And I'm like, well, I can't reverse in this. Like, I don't trust myself on this ice, and to go all the way back up the hill with the car and then do it. I want to go forward, and I want to make a circle and come back at it really slow and get back on that way. So I'm like, I will drive further down this road until I find a parking lot, like a post office parking lot, a church parking lot, something big, or a Walmart or something like that, where I can swoop in and go and swing around and come back out. So I start driving down this road. Again, whiteout conditions. It's all just coming in. It's still pitch black. The sun hasn't even really come up yet, and it's all just snow in my headlights. And I'm driving down this road, man, and it's like, it's like a quarter of a mile, half a mile, 2 miles, and there's nothing. Like, this is desolate farmland. There's just, like, empty fields everywhere. I'm occasionally passing a trailer here, like, and then another trailer a quarter of a mile, 2 miles down or whatever. And so finally I'm like, I start rocking. Like, I am swaying back and forth in the wind because it's so crazy. And I'm like, there is no way that I'm going to be able to, like, 12-point turn this car in the road and not, because, like, now it's like one of those roads where it's elevated, right, where I have the big ditches down here. I'm like, there's no way I'm going to be able to position it and turn it and get back on the way. And I'm getting further away from civilization, right? Like, I know people are at the Dairy Queen. I know that I can take shelter in the Dairy Queen, but I'm in trouble here. Things are getting really bad soon. And so I'm driving, and I finally see the next trailer, like, a ways away, right? And I see it, and you can still see in the snow, like, it has the imprint of a circle drive. And I'm like, that is probably not asphalt or concrete, but it's, clearly a driveway. Hopefully I can hit it, get around, get back up, get on the road, get back to the Dairy Queen, and just bunker down pretty much. And so I pull off in front of this trailer, see the circular drive, get down there, get into the circle, and then, like, I don't even know, a quarter way through the circle, just stuck. It's just mud. It's all mud. There's no asphalt here. There's no nothing. So now I'm in a U-Haul towing a car in front of just a trailer house in the middle of nowhere. There's nothing else in sight anymore, and I am stuck in this yard. And so I scream for a bit and pound on the steering wheel, hop out, and it's one of those, you hop out and your feet touch and it's just all mud. You're like, okay, well, this is really, really bad. Like, what am I going to do here? How can I possibly, what am I going to do? Like, it's blizzard too now. It's like full on. I am in way over my head. I am not an adult for this kind of life. So I walk up to this trailer house, right, and it's not in the best of shape. And I walk up there and I knock on the door, and thank God a man named Earl opens the door. And Earl's he's an old gentleman. He's an old soul, and he basically answers the door and he's like, "Hey," and I'm like, "Hey, I'm so sorry. I'm stuck in your driveway. Can I call someone?" He's like, "Well, I can probably pull you out. I have a tractor." And I'm like, And I look over and they're like this tiny little tractor. It's like, I'm like, if that's your tractor, it's not going to work. Like, you're not. And he's like, "No, it'll work. Don't worry." I'm like, all right. Like, he's clearly a real dude. Like, I'm not a real dude, obviously. I'm a marshmallow man, right? This guy is like a farmer. He's living in a trailer in the middle of Nebraska. He knows something's up. So we go out there, and sure enough, he just gets a chain, and then he gets the little tractor, and he connects the little tractor to the frame of my truck. And I'm like, "I don't know, man. I'm towing a car too." He's like, "No, it'll work." We climb in there, and I hit the gas, and I'm spinning the wheels, and he goes over and he has this piece of plywood that his trailer is elevated, obviously, so he had these wooden steps up to it, and then he had this plywood basically around the base of the wooden stairs, because I guess a bunch of feral cats had been going in there and living under there. And so I don't know if it was to keep the cats safe or keep them out, but he had it there, and it smelled like cat piss. It was covered in cat piss. And we're putting it underneath the wheels. Nothing is happening. The tractor is not moving this at all. He's like, "All right, well, come on in. You can call, figure out what's going to happen." So I go in there, open his yellow pages, use his phone, and the closest, they're obviously these are, Nebraska's used to highway stuff. So there's all these people who towing a big rig, towing a giant tractor trailer, the kind of stuff I'm running. The closest one is in Kearney. It's the next big town where it actually has some stuff. So I call there and I'm like, "Hey, yeah, I screwed up and I'm stuck here." And the lady's like, "Okay, yeah, we can get to you in 8-9 hours, maybe 12. And I was like, "What?" And she's like, "Yeah, there's a blizzard. They've closed the highway. Even if you could have gotten further down the highway, it would have been completely closed. Probably was closed where you were and you just didn't know." And I'm like, "Well, that's really bad news." And she's like, "Yeah, it's bad here. Everything's broken down, blah, blah, blah." She's like, "So yeah, we'll, take your cell phone. We'll be hopefully in touch with you in 9-12 hours, something like that." And I was like, "Okay." And so I'll never forget hanging up the phone, deep breath, and I turn around and I'm like, "Earl, gotta ask you for another favor here, man." And he's like, "What?" And I'm like, I'm stuck here." And he's like, "You can totally hang here. What am I gonna do? Kick you out in the snow to die or whatever?" So for the next 8 hours, I sat in Earl's trailer with him watching March Madness through snowy antenna ear TV and having the trailer get rocked back and forth. And it was odd, to say the least. We finally get settled in there, and I was like, "All right, I'm gonna go to the bathroom or whatever." And I go back to he's like, "Oh, it's back there." I'm like, "Okay, great." So I go back there in the trailer to the bathroom, and I walk in and I go to the bathroom, and his bathtub is filled with coffee cans that all have water in them. And then next to the sink, more coffee cans with water in them, but then a bunch of different bottles of soap, dish soap there. And I was like, "Whatever, not gonna ask. Don't really care. No big deal." And so, do my business, leave, come out, I pass his bedroom, and it's just a mattress on the ground with all these torn out Playboy centerfolds on the walls or whatever. And I'm not gonna judge. And that's the important thing to point out here. For all intents and purposes, Earl saved my life here. So nothing I'm saying here is to, "Well, man, this guy's a weirdo." It's just not what I was used to, not where I expected my trip to take me. Thankful he saved my life, though. Go down, sit down, we're watching TV. Finally, he's like, "Do you want a cup of coffee?" I'm like, "I would love a cup of coffee." And he gets up and he goes to the TV, and there's a coffee cup on top of the TV, and it's and he grabs it and he goes, and he breaks it off. It had been glued to the TV. There was gunk at the base that had glued it to the TV. He's like, "Gunk." And I'm like, "Okay." And he's like, "Oh man, I should probably wash it." And I'm like, "I can wash it. You don't have to wait on me on top of keeping me alive." And he's like, "Okay, great." So I take the mug and I start to go towards this kitchen. He's like, "Oh no, I wash my dishes back there." I'm like, "Oh, in the bathroom." And he's like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "That's why all the dish soap is in there." Wash it, have some coffee. It's fine. It wasn't, fresh brewed or anything. It was, it's coffee. It did what it needed to. And the whole thing, of course, is that I just wanted to sit there and play my PSP and lament life, right? But like Earl wanted to talk, and I don't know how many visitors Earl got, so he told me about his girlfriend and all these other things and stuff, that women who liked him, and his, his niece and all these other things. He was a lovely man, very, very nice. But I kept getting phone calls, and I'd go take them in his kitchen. And like there were basic rules of fire safety. I don't think Earl had been briefed on. He had a gas stove, so he had pilot lights. But on top of the stove, he had piled newspapers, like just years and years worth of newspapers were piled on top of the burners for some reason. And like the whole reason he's washing his dishes in the bathroom, I think, is because the kitchen sink was just like piled with dishes and just completely out of commission. And so I'll never forget that I'm on the phone, and I'm of course talking in code. I'm talking back to the fiance back home, and she's like, "Well, how is everything?" I'm like, "It's good. Earl's totally cool. I'm okay. He's putting me up. They're coming for me soon." She's like, "Well, at least you're in a nice place." And I just go, "No. It's like, "Oh, you're not in a nice place." I'm like, "Nope, not." And while I'm saying this, I'm looking at his griddle, where you make pancakes. A little griddle he had on the side counter, and like the edge of it had like been bent, and all the grease from like bacon and stuff had just been like pooling up on the ground. It was just like a pile of grease on the ground that had been there for a while. And I'm like, "No, it's not a nice place, but again, I'm okay. I'm alive. Any port in the storm, Earl is an angel for taking me in. Thank you so much." So that's what it was. We sat there and chilled out forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. And finally, the phone rang, and this is like 8 hours later. And they're like, "All right, we're going to come get you now." Like, Kearney wasn't far away from where we were. So they came, towed me out. I took down I left Earl a note thanking him and a check for being so nice to me. And then climbed back in my car, and then went back, just drove. It was like, it was nighttime by now, or like in late afternoon, early evening. And I just turned around and drove back to the last hotel I had passed, or whatever. I guess that's where I was trying to go when I failed on the Dairy Queen. I had passed the Hampton Inns or whatever. And so I pulled in there, and I'll never get this. I'm totally afraid, emotionally drained. It's been like, like you talk about like life kicking you in the face, like, right? Like I was trying to do this thing on my own. I pull into where it says, cars this way and trucks this way, and I'm like, which am I? I don't even know what I am anymore, And so I'm like, I guess I go trucks, and I go off to where, and I get in there, and it's immediately wrong. I'm surrounded by big rigs that are way bigger than the U-Haul I'm driving, and I'm like, all right, fine. So I drive in, I'm like, I'll get out of here, and I get the car stuck again. And I'm like trying everything, and I can't get it out. And I climb out of the car, and I walk over, and this big rig was just starting to pull down. And I run over, and I wave him down. And the guy, he rolls down his window and he's like, "What's up?" And I'm like, "Sir, I have no idea what the fuck I am doing. I am having a terrible day. I've been stuck. Now the car's, can you please help me?" And he's like, yeah. And he climbed out, and he came over, and he gave me some tips on how to drive a giant U-Haul. Got it moved. I went over. I took up like 4 parking spots in the parking lot. Parked it. Went upstairs. Got a room. Went upstairs. Took like a nice hot shower because I was just disgusting, and then ordered a Pizza Hut pizza because there was a Pizza Hut in the parking lot. I'll never forget I ate the pizza, threw the stuff away. I moved the nightstand so I could plug in my phone, and there was like a pile of unopened condoms back there. But somebody was like having a fucking weekend with their girlfriend or whatever, and like had dropped all their condoms back there. And there's like 30 condoms piled up. I'm like, whatever, and I plugged it in. I passed out, and the next morning, at like, I don't even remember anymore. I guess it was like 5:45 or whatever. I got a phone call from my mom, who's just like sobbing. She's just like, "I've been watching the weather all night long, and it's not getting better. Please go back to Missouri, and if they won't pay to ship your things, I'll ship them for you, and we'll get you a flight." I'm just like, again, emotionally defeated. I'm just like, okay. So like I call Jeremy Dunham, who I wake up. Anyways, I call him at 6 in the morning my time, but it was like 4 in the morning their time. And I'm like, "Wakey," and I don't even know Dunham. I've never met Dunham in person. "Wakey, sleepyhead." And he goes, "It's 4 in the morning." And I'm like, "I know, sorry." It turns out I'm not going to be there on time. I'm going to be a day late at least because I got to go do this. So I drove back to Missouri on that day, then got a plane out to IGN, shipped most of my stuff, didn't die in a blizzard because of the kindness of Earl. So Earl, if you are watching this YouTube video, first off, I'm glad you have the internet now in your trailer. Second off, thank you very much for saving my life.
So one thing that is kind of cool about the GameOverGreggy show that they started doing is, so it was Greg and Colin that are already pretty famous from IGN, and they're on Podcast Beyond. And they had these guys, Nick and Tim, who were like senior video producers or whatever at IGN, who just basically came to help them, just showed up and we're like, "Yeah, we'll work for pizza, whatever. We'll help you get your thing off the ground because it sounds cool." So they eventually started doing this podcast with the 4 of them, and they were kind of like, these 2 guys are like just like cool discoveries, you know? Like they weren't the on-screen talent, they weren't known for being talkers. I guess Tim kind of had aspirations to someday be a YouTube sort of personality. But Nick Scarpino, not at all. He's just a video guy. Worked at IGN for, I think, like 8 years, like ages. And he's just a really great guy. He's super cool. And they bring up all the time, they joke about how he was a shadow boxer when he was a young man. So, that's a pretty cool story. So here's Nick Scarpino talking about his experiences shadow boxing.
I would imagine you as being like the super cool guy in high school, but at the same time, knowing you, I can totally imagine you being not the cool guy.
I wasn't.
Now you're the cool
I was
guy.
neither cool nor uncool. I was just sort of existing.
You were just the guy.
People just knew who I was.
Hey, look, there's that Nicholas Scarpino with
I was
H.
like, I used to do a lot of theater stuff, and I used to do a lot.
Theater?
I was in band. I was the drum major 3 years in a row. Very proud of that.
So that's like you were twirling the sticks and like doing like
I twirled the sticks.
Like Nick
No,
Cannon.
that's a drummer. I was the guy that conducted the band in front of everyone. And at the,
What'd you call it?
The drum major. So at the front of the parade route,
Isn't like
the guy that's marching in front with a little beat, he's the one that sets the tone for the drums. And
The
the drums set
drum
the
line.
tone for the drum line.
Didn't you see the movie Drumline with Nick
yeah,
Cannon?
but I didn't think that was the name of
It's
him.
the 2 guys that walk back and they're like, oh, and they're like,
Sure.
oh. That was me. I was that guy.
And they called it drum major.
Drum major.
Okay.
Yeah. He's the leader of the band, any band.
Leader of the pack.
So is that how you always
Can we see video of you being
Oh,
a drum
good.
major?
I'm sure there is some somewhere. I don't know if it's been digitized. Remember, I went to high school. I graduated high school
Sure.
in '98.
It was black and white. It wasn't a talkie yet.
Yeah, everything was analog. If that term was even invented.
It was
yet.
like in between, like
Groucho.
the Long Beach County All-Stars are taking the field. And here comes number 1 drum major in Southern California, Nicholas Scarpino.
with an H.
With an age.
Pretty good.
Careful,
Yes,
ladies, he's single.
Yeah,
Meanwhile, our boys in the Pacific Theater.
Yeah, you want to hear something sad? When I was a kid, when I was in high school, I was super chunky. I was like a big boy, right? And so there's nothing more cliche than being chubby as the drum major. What made it even worse was my high school was so poor; they only had a certain amount of outfits, like uniforms for everyone to wear. And the last drum major before me was like your size.
He's pointing at Colin. If you're
Colin,
listening.
I'm pointing at Colin. So I mean, he was tiny. He was a tiny guy. Was very in shape. He was trying to like he's gonna go into the military. I think he went to the Air Force after that. And so my band director, great guy, super did me a solid, and he was like, "Look, I'll be honest with you. I want you to be drum major. That's great, but you're not going to be if you can't fit into the uniform. Like we're not making a new uniform for you. So."
I don't know why this is so funny.
It's really sad.
Really is.
It's like Mr. Holland's
He's like, I want you to know that like you're standing in front. When, the drum major, for anyone who's never been to a football or doesn't really pay attention to a football game, he's the one that stands up with his ass toward the crowd and starts the marching band, and they do what's called a field show, and they like and they come. And that's when they practice for their competitions, is in the middle of football games, and then they go back up to the stands and they play the fight song or whatever that is. So he's like, look, you people are gonna stare at your ass. And you look like the penguin because the uniforms were the ones that were like super high, so your ass was like elongated. It was, Dan DeVito from Batman Returns. So yeah, I had to lose weight. He did me a solid. I had to go and I lost like 20 pounds so I could fit into one of the uniforms.
Was it like a cool summer montage of you're like lifting milk jugs and
Sadly,
rolling in the dirt?
No, I went.
Is that how you lose weight?
This is what happened. Do you know what I did to lose weight? I stopped eating past like 10 o'clock at night. And I used to be
that helps.
I used to be heavy into Steven Seagal, and I used to just go out and like shadow box outside my house for like a half hour. And then I would try to do like every night I would shadow box, and I'd be like ha ha ha, like right. And then I would go, and then there was this one sole branch on this sad tree out in front.
On fire.
Yeah, and I would try desperately to just do one pull up. That's how out of shape I was. One pull up.
Was your father just at the window with a cup of coffee, just like shaking his head the entire time?
No, he probably was if he did, and he had the kindness not to actually tell me about that. Anyway, long story short, which is really a long story short.
I like it. This is what this show's all about.
For clip number 4, another early show that they started doing on their YouTube channel was called Oreo Oration, where Greg Miller just reviewed different kinds of Oreos. And it's kind of funnier, I guess, to see on screen because there's a kind of running visual little commentary just kind of making fun of them as it goes. So if you're listening to this on an MP3 and not on YouTube, I guess you're missing out on those jokes. But this one in particular, he reviewed pumpkin spice Oreos, I think they're called. And I don't know, I love this one because Greg just loses it. He just cracks himself up so much with his own dumb joke. And it's fucking awesome. So here's Greg Miller reviewing some Oreos.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Oreo Oration. I'm Greg, and while you were out living your life, the fine people at Oreo are making endless variations to Milk's favorite cookie. So whenever I feel like it really, or there's a big Oreo in the news, I get together and I give you a tasty review without any calories. Today, we're reviewing pumpkin spice Oreos. So let's not beat around the bush here, ladies and gentlemen. I love pumpkin spice stuff. Love it to death. Pumpkin spice latte? Yeah. Here's how obsessive I was. When I didn't have much money, I went out to the mall and they had the pumpkin breads there, right? And I was like, I love pumpkin bread. So I bought some. I couldn't afford it. I brought home, made it. I loved it so much. I went back to that store and bought enough pumpkin bread and pumpkin in cans to make pumpkin bread throughout the year. Now, did I do it? No. Forgot about it. They all went bad. Wasted a lot of money. I don't suggest doing that. But now, Oreo's gone the extra step of putting pumpkin spice into Oreos. So hopefully now, you see, you got the golden cookie, of course, and then you got the pumpkin in there, and a little bit of cinnamon sticks. They're trying to make it sound like it's going to taste like pumpkin pie. We'll be the judge of that. Of course, every Oreo oration begins with the patented first look. It's a little tough bugger. Here we go. Okay, the first look is pretty goddamn promising. You know, I'm a big pumpkins fan. And these definitely smell like pumpkin. Now, that's the smell test of the first look. If we want to look at them themselves, we'll see they are a knickered up bunch here. You got them, these two down here are all cockamamie. They're just like, they're just in there just doing their thing. They're trying to be legs. This is a sentient column of Oreos that's trying to walk out of the bag and avoid me eating it, but that won't stop. And then up here, you got a whole bunch that are screwed up. And they smell pungent in a good way. The good kind of pumpkin-y pungent you want. I'm not saying they smell like a pumpkin pie yet. I'm getting wafts and hints and motifs of pumpkin pie, but I'm not ready to commit all the way. You look here, though. It looks like they're not melty, but they definitely don't seem, the cream doesn't seem to be fighting back against the cookie like our normal flavored Oreos here in the oration do. First looks pretty good, though. They're together, cockamamie. It looks like I got screwed out of a few ones there. No big deal. Now it's time to move on to what always matters, of course. Taste. I like where we're headed. Oh yeah. We're in a good place. I'm pretty goddamn happy, ladies and gentlemen. Because, again, I was afraid they were going to screw this up. I love pumpkin. Literally, if you're like, Greg Miller, what's the perfect Oreo they can make for you? I'd first say chicken wings, but then I'd pull back because that's disgusting. And then I'd think about it, and I would say pumpkin. And so far, so good. And I guess there's not much more further to go since they taste really good. Well, it's a mini pumpkin pie. You've got the crunch of the shortbread cookie, the white cookie we know well here on the oration, then the pumpkin filling in there. They play together. That first bite I took, if you want to go in the Wayback Machine to about a minute ago, I bit into it and I was like, I taste a lot of shortbread here. Where's the pumpkin come in? And then a few bites later, there was the pumpkin. And it reminded me, of course, when you're at Thanksgiving and you're eating the pumpkin pie and you get to the crust and the crust is crunchy, and you're like, it's just in reverse. I'm not getting to the end of it unless you ate it like reverse pizza, like when they put the cheese in the crust and you have to flip it. Goddamn Oreo, you beautiful bastards. Let's see how it pairs with milk, of course, a huge part of Oreo ration. I'm not going to say the cookie is impervious to milk, but it didn't take much milk there. It did at first bring out the pumpkin taste. Now I'm just going to suffocate it like my PE teacher. If they ever compress charters.
How did you just say?
I like them better with milk. Yeah. You get in there, you soften up the cookie, you let the pumpkin speak a little bit better. I'm a fan of that. Time for the final part here, the twist test. See how it goes. Best 2 out of 3, of course. 1, it's good. It is coming away from the wall here, though. That alarms me. You remember when we reviewed the mint Oreos, their cream fell out and it was all floppy and gross. And I was like, nobody wants a slippery cream in them. But this is the kind of slippery cream I wouldn't mind in me. Now, I almost feel like... Oh, there's the other one. Who the hell cares about the twist test? Doesn't matter. I almost feel like I lost some of the pumpkin taste when I split it off and just ate the cream right out of it. Let's put it together for a double stuff. This is the other thing, too. If you notice, a lot of the Oreos we do here on the Oration, the flavored ones, are gigantic. They don't even look single stuff. These guys look like they are single stuff sandwich cookies. This guy looks like he's seen a rough go of it. This is a pumpkin spice Oreo. He's like the original pumpkin spice Oreo. He's like, I want to get back out there and fight. And this one's like, I'm not gonna let you rock. He's like, I like this cookie. We come to the final score. I need to eat one more plain. I need to just have one more bite of a normal one. This is where the pressure of Oreoration sets in. What am I going to score it? Because I'll have to live with it the rest of my life. For a Greg Miller, and if you like pumpkin spice stuff, I'm saying this is not the official score. Not the official score. I'm saying this would be a 9.5. But for just the Oreoration review scale, I'm going to give it a 9. I'm going to be a bit reasonable and dial it down at half of a point. It's a 9. It's a really good cookie and I like it a lot. It's so good. Yeah, so there you have it. I'm really happy with this cookie. And I think you will be too. So,
now to finish up, this is kind of more serious, but I mean, I think this might be clips 5, 6, and 7. I think I got enough to wrap it up and do 7. Is another early show they did was called A Conversation with Colin, where Greg just talked to his friend Colin. They, they're roommates, they live together. And they just blabbed about stuff, and then that became the GameOverGreggy show with all 4 guys. So this was just kind of the 2-man version of that. And there's just a lot of different topics that Colin gets into that I think are really interesting. He's from Long Island, New York, and he talks about September 11th, and I mean, that's just, it's always one of those interesting things, because it's like, I remember where I was just east coast of Canada. Literally, I mean, I remember one of my friends calling, like, when only the first tower had been hit and not the second, and watching it on the news. And then me and my cousin we just went to some diner and I remember we just got pie, but I don't know even exactly what we talked about, just how weird it was, just how weird the whole world felt. And like, even though we didn't do anything remotely interesting that day, it's still kind of crystallized, like, what the fuck is going on? So to hear that story from the New York perspective and how his dad was a firefighter is very interesting. And then I have a couple other clips by him also. What are they? I can't even remember off the top of my head. I don't know, but I'm sure they're interesting or I wouldn't have put them aside. Colin's an interesting guy. He kind of reminds me of how I was when I was younger. Because I was a Canadian kid who, read Ayn Rand books and I was like, whoa, America, what an amazing place. Holy shit, I can't believe I'm stuck in Canada. Like, America's the place to be. That's individualism and capitalism, awesome. And then I moved to New York for a couple of years and had a real bad time, didn't fit in at all, realized I really didn't like that very much. And then, as I guess I'll get into at the end of this episode, my ideas have really changed. This idea of rampant individualism, it's a nice idea. And I think that's why I liked Ayn Rand books so much, is because they made it seem realistic, It's like, yeah, you can just stand on your own. You can just be the individual. You don't need anybody else. You can do this. And that was such a comforting thought to me, this comforting idea. It was like a drug almost. I really needed to hear that just to even believe I could survive in this weird society. And then as I get older and older, I realize, I can't though. I can't survive that way. Community and groups are just so much more valuable, and I was always shamed out of it a little, of well, you're supposed to be able to stand on your own. And it's yeah, well, I can't though. I really can't. And the more I learn about human physiology and human nature, it's it's okay that I can't. It's crazy to think that you could. That's not how human beings got to where we are. That's not how we're wired. That's not how we're supposed to function. And it's okay to rely on other people sometimes. But I like Colin because he's like the version of me that never changed his mind, So yeah, there'll be a couple other stories from Colin, and I think that will wrap up the clips. I hope you found these interesting. You can find more of my podcasts at keithcourage.com. And if you are interested, for whatever reason, in listening to me ramble about my life at the end of this, stay tuned after the clips, and that will happen. Right now, ladies and gentlemen, some Colin Moriarty.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to A Conversation with Colin. I'm Greg, and this is my roommate, Colin. Now, sometimes Colin says crazy stuff. So every Tuesday and Thursday, I reach into the random topic pile, pull it out, toss it at him, and we talk it out for your amusement. If you like that, like the video, subscribe to us on YouTube, share us with your friends. Colin, are you ready?
Yes.
Today's topic of conversation is 9/11. This was submitted by Pelchio, maybe Pelch 100. Can't read my own handwriting. Well, it's also just a dumb name. At 9/11, September 11th, 2001. I don't know how you want to tackle this bad boy. How do you want to?
What do we want to talk about?
He just said that. We say, at the end of the show, what do you want to see Colin talk about? He said 9/11, period.
I think 9/11 was a day that affected different people in different ways.
Okay.
But I think that it changed the course of American history, made certain things acceptable in this country that aren't acceptable, and also exposed, real practical weaknesses in our, intelligence apparatus and the way we go about our business, and that we might need to watch our backs a little bit more than we had been at the time.
Yeah. You were living in New York at the time?
Yeah, I was in New York at the time. I was a senior in high school on Long Island. I remember that day very well.
Of course.
There's a whole personal aspect for me that I'm not going to get into about, my father's a New York City firefighter, or was. Much of my dad's firehouse died that day in Brooklyn. And the reason for that is because the city got so congested and fucked up that the only way into the city, into Lower Manhattan, Battery Park, was over the bridge or down Manhattan. So the firehouses that got most ravaged were the ones in Lower Manhattan or in Brooklyn, because they got over the bridge and can get there. So that happened to my father's firehouse, and thank God my dad's fine. But that day scarred my dad very much.
Sure.
And scarred my family very much, because we knew a lot of people that died that day. It was a scary day. I don't remember a lot of specifics about a lot of things that happened in high school, but I remember that day very well, and I remember being in Mr. Graziano's astronomy class, and he was, talking about what he thought happened and who it happened, and we ended up just leaving. I ended up just leaving, and they ended up letting school out later. And I was like, I'm going home.
Yeah.
I think that 9/11 was a wake-up call to our country about, our own freedoms and our own ability to do what we need to do to protect our own interests, and also the ramifications of not showing any restraint in how you respond to these things. And so I think that, going into Afghanistan after 9/11 was obviously the right thing to do, and we did the right thing. I think that the spin-off of using Americans' fear of terror and what was happening in the Middle East to go into Iraq in 2003 was wrong. And I definitely got caught up in that. I definitely supported the Iraq War.
Yeah.
And I was totally wrong about that.
I think a lot of people did, right? Like, it's that zeitgeist in the moment of like, we all wanted revenge, and we wanted someone personally to hate and get for this, you know what I mean? And so that's why, like, even when they weren't really connecting it to 9/11, you were still like, well, we can't find Bin Laden. I almost said Obama. We found Obama pretty easy. We couldn't find Osama, you know what I mean? But you knew, well, over there is Saddam, right? Like, he's being bad too. Like, get somebody. There was no targets to bomb, right? That was the big problem with Afghanistan, right? That they didn't have like giant military headquarters to go in and take out and stuff, right? Everything was like hidden off the grid, and we were fighting like guerrilla terrorists.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing about America is, we have the greatest military the world has ever known, and it's not even like close. Like, we can do whatever we want. It's a matter of like, with the amount, like, if we want to put in the money and the personnel, like, we can do whatever we want, and take whatever we want. And we didn't want to go full bore in Afghanistan for obvious reasons, because we learned lessons from the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan in the 80s, and like, it's just not a place you want to go, and you can't fight there. It's like the guerrilla warfare there is like so next level compared to what we went through in Vietnam that we didn't want to engage like we did in Vietnam, where we lost like 68,000 people. So we couldn't finish the task, which is why this is still going on. If we wanted to really finish the task, we could have. It required extraordinary measures,
Yeah.
We would have had to do things that we might not have wanted to do as a people,
Well, yeah.
And
like nuke the whole place?
Well, yeah, we often talk about, we could have used 2 tactical nuclear weapons in Afghanistan. I don't think, like, in historicity, I think Bush made the right choice by not doing that. But at the time, I don't think anyone would have blamed us, because first of all, no one's really there's nothing there. You're basically sealing cave dwelling, entrances and stuff like that by doing things like that.
Yeah.
But we showed restraint. I respect Bush for showing restraint there, which is, in contrast with the fact that, he didn't show any restraint with Iraq. But 9/11 changed everything, because suddenly we have the TSA, suddenly we have, the Patriot Act, suddenly we have this NSA apparatus that's like spying on everyone.
Yeah.
It ratcheted up very Orwellian type fears in me that, that have changed over time, because, I supported the Iraq War. When the Patriot Act was drafted, I was like, well, I thought about it 2 ways. I was like, this is kind of fucked up, but if you don't have anything to hide,
right? Everybody said
then,
that.
and it's like, and I'm like, but that has nothing to do with it, In a lot of ways, and I say this all the time, the terrorists won that day. They won. They absolutely delivered a killing blow to the United States that we can't take back, and they tried to do it in 1993 at the World Trade Center. They tried to do it with the USS Cole, but it was real in 2000, but it was really that strike on the World Trade Center and the Pentagon that sealed the deal, because they understood, like the Viet Cong understood, that the best way to get what you want out of a country this big and this powerful is to just fuck with them, and that the littlest, tiniest little flea can fuck with the biggest dog,
Yeah.
And they won. They won that day. And like, I hate when people say like, we have Al Qaeda on the run and we killed Bin Laden and all these things. Like, who gives a shit? Look what they did to our society. It took us all this time to even build a tower again. Nonetheless, get back to a point, if we ever get back to a point where we trust each other again, where like we don't have to have these fucking idiots in the airport going through our bags and harassing old women and children and all this kind of shit, that we legalized spying on each other and the government just doing whatever they want. Like, those are the things that disrupt us from within. And it's like Abraham Lincoln always said, like, the United States will never fall from an external force. It will always fall. It will fall because of internal strife. Mm-hmm. And they just pressed the right buttons that day, Right. And so 9/11's lasting legacy is not about my family and not about the things we lost, because I really think that the memory of 9/11 doesn't loom large in a lot of people's lives because they just weren't fucking there, and I was.
You think so?
Yeah.
I think when we talk about like American history, right? Like, you obviously you know way more than me, right? But I was always fascinated with American history, and it's one of those things when I was in school, there was a moment where I debated going into it, right? Because I just loved American history so much. And for me, I think that's like, if you were alive on 9/11, I think that changed you know, in just such a deep way. And it's like you're talking about how you remember what class you were in. Like, it's totally for our generation, like the JFK assassination, right? Like my mom always talked about that she'll never forget what happened and who has said what and where, how they first found out about it. You know what I mean? And like that day is crystal clear to me still. You know what I mean? Like I think for a lot of people our age, it's just one of those things of like, we all remember every part of that, and it is one of the. I think it changed everybody. I don't think it's just a New York thing or somebody who's like personally connected to it. Like, I think it was. You talk about that terrorists tried with the USS Cole and then the original World Trade Center bombing, and like why that didn't work right is because it wasn't live televised and like nonstop coverage, right? I remember when I was a kid. I'd wake up to get ready for school. And so I'd watch the morning news on in my room or whatever. And I remember shots of smoke coming out of the bottom of the World Trade Center during the initial bombing in the 90s. And this is one of the things that I think sometimes New York takes for granted, or did back then, obviously now it doesn't have to worry about it, that I didn't understand what the World Trade Center was. There's been a bombing at the World Trade Center, they show smoke coming out of this, and it was like, oh, okay, like I pictured a giant center, like kind of like from Chicago, right, like McCormick Center or something like that, like a collection of different things that were there, you know what I mean? Like, I never knew the Twin Towers were the Twin Towers or the World Trade Center until they fell. Right. Like, when I woke up that day, my roommate ran into the room, I'd been at college like 4 weeks, 5 weeks, you know what I mean? Like, everything was brand new. I was an adult for the, you're on your own, and then like, with a light switch, everything in the country changes. But he ran into that, and like that was the first real comprehension of what the World Trade Center was and what that was. And to see it all come down and see and deal with the the monumental loss of life and how vulnerable we were and this, that, and the other. And like what you're talking about, like they were people. The government was taking away liberties here and there, and you were like, okay, no big deal. You know what I mean? Like, make sure this doesn't happen again. Obviously, we're scared. We don't know how to fight this. We'll put up for that. I think that changed everybody in that day, and that's why it's bizarre to talk to people now who are like, oh, I wasn't even alive yet. You know what I mean? You're like, what? Like, how is that possible? How old am I? What is happening?
Yeah, I look at it two ways. I agree with you partially in the sense that what I loved and respected about that day was that people look at New York as this thing, right? Like, I'm from New York, so I understand New York, and I'm a New Yorker, and I respect it. And even though I'm from, I consider myself more of a Long Islander. Like, the fact of the matter is, I grew up, in the shadow of New York City, and I used to go there all the time. And my dad worked there and all that kind of stuff, as everyone's dads did. And like, I liked that day everyone was a New Yorker. It reminded me a lot of like NATO, where it's like an attack on one is an attack on all. Obviously, like, this is an attack on our country, but we were all New Yorkers that day because 100%. We sympathized with what was going on, and the most strident fucking anti-North Southerner was a New Yorker that day. Like. But there's an aspect to not having experienced it firsthand that doesn't let the legacy loom large in your mind. And people forget about what happened that day, in a very real sense. They remember that the towers fell, and they remember that the Pentagon was struck, but they don't remember it in that emotional way that we still have to remember it. Because we were there, I wasn't in New York City that day. But I remember what that did to the people that were there, and I saw it with my own eyes, and I was at those firemen funerals, Yeah. And you don't hear a deafening silence like you hear when the bagpipes are playing at a fucking funeral for a firefighter, and that silence after it all happens, And like, and you're in the middle of Garden City or somewhere on Long Island or in New York City, and it's just fucking silent, And that's the stuff that people can't relate to when they say, some people still make fun of me for my old Game Facts where I dedicate them to 9/11 and stuff like that. And I did that in high school.
Those people are assholes.
Yeah, but
Heads up.
But also they're like, 9/11, blah, blah, blah. It's like, you don't get it. Like, you weren't affected by it any more than any other American was affected by it. But New Yorkers were affected by it in a very specific way. And New Yorkers who knew people that died and people who had their fathers there were affected by it in a very specific way, My father is still haunted by that day, And my dad actually does great work. He's retired now, got his master's degree in social work, and is actually one of the social workers that deals with the survivors and their families for the FDNY. And they respect him because he was there. Yeah. You know, he's not one of those guys that's like, I understand how you feel. I understand. No, I really do understand how you feel. I'm the one who dragged bodies out of the fucking rubble. Yeah. You know? So when you don't know someone like that, and you don't hear those stories, and you don't have that remembrance, and you don't remember your dad's best friend's dead, and you're at his funeral, and your dad's face at that funeral, well, then you can't understand any of it, you know? In the same way. So there's two different ways to look at it. There's the way of like how it affected all Americans, and that sucks, and that's like the lasting ramification. But there's the emotional ramification of, it's the same way we look at like the dying World War II veterans at Iwo Jima, and like we have to get the stories out of them now because they're dying, and we can only remember the things they've said, but we didn't experience it like they experienced it. Well, it's the same thing. You know?
Yeah, I wasn't trying to say that we all experienced on that level by any means. I'm just saying I don't want you to discredit what that day means to somebody who wasn't there. I want to make sure we're very clear as friends that I was not saying, obviously, everybody has the same emotional connection to this, but I think that I don't think anybody who was alive and a cognizant adult at that point today forgets 9/11. Is what I'm saying.
No, I don't think so either. Okay. And like I think that we often forget to talk about a lot of people ask me about what I feel about 9/11 truth and stuff. 9/11 truth is garbage. Like, this suggests such a conspiracy, the likes of which we talked about conspiracy with JFK and how many thousands of people must have been on the moon landing, and no one said anything yet. Like, give me a fucking break, you know?
No whistleblowers on the entirety of bringing down 2 buildings.
It doesn't. I don't care about the science behind it, because the science behind it could be compelling, but these things happen and no one said anything about it yet. You think the CIA has everyone that wrapped up, and like all these external forces are like having? All right, enough of that. There are all these kind of outstanding questions about what happened that day, but I think the only outstanding question for me is what happened in Shanksville, and will anything ever be normal again now? And I don't think that anything will be normal again. And I don't mean that in an emotional way. I don't mean that as a New Yorker. I don't mean that, as someone who kind of experienced it more firsthand than most Americans did. Mm-hmm. The way I mean that is, we lost a lot that day that had nothing to do with human life. And we have to be more careful about those kinds of things in the future. I don't want to say government looks for reasons to take away your rights, like those kinds of reasons, but they kind of do.
Yeah.
And we didn't need to lose everything we lost. We already lost so much that day, right? Like, we didn't need to lose our freedom for that too, and we've lost a lot because of 9/11. So 9/11 is this multifaceted, really complicated thing. The Shanksville thing, the Pentagon thing. We often forget about the Pentagon and the people that died there.
Yeah.
Had nothing to do with New York. But those Twin Towers and stuff, like I always say, like, those Twin Towers were just buildings to you, right? Like, I remember being in those buildings as a kid, and I remember standing in front of them and looking up, and they were so big that they looked like they were going ahead of you. You know what I mean? Like, they didn't look like they were going straight up. They looked like they were almost on the next block. They were fucking huge. Mm-hmm. When you have those, like, touchstones in your life, like, those kinds of things mean a little bit more. So, that's kind of where I stand on that, but it's a complicated issue, and the only thing I can tell you is that it made me, on a personal level, made me respect my father more than I already did at that point, and the things he had gone through, brought me closer to him or whatever. Made me appreciate that, he might not be here today if things had gone just a little bit differently.
Yeah.
So.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to A Conversation with Colin. I'm Greg, and this is my roommate, Colin. Now, sometimes the Pride of Long Island says crazy stuff. So every Tuesday and Thursday, I reach into my random topic pile, pull one out, toss it at him, and we talk it out for your amusement. If you like that, like the video, subscribe to the channel, share it with your friends. Colin, are you ready?
Yes.
Today's topic of conversation is, what's Colin's zombie apocalypse plan? Would he rather fight Cordyceps-style zombies or Walking Dead-style zombies from XO-DOS-0?
God, it's no... First of all, I would much rather be in The Walking Dead than I would be in The Last of Us.
Oh my God, I can't, no.
The Last of Us...
If you haven't watched, Last of Us zombies they're not zombies, first off. They're infected humans, the fungus grows out of their head, and then they sprint and they run and they scream, and then zombies in Walking Dead are the slow moving, they don't run, you can outsmart them easily.
Yeah, The Walking Dead is not as scary as The Last of Us in terms of being in that situation.
Sure, that's why I think Walking Dead, whether it be in TV, film, books, or whatever, the real threat is the other person, right? Mm-hmm. How man's inhumanity to man kind of thing. And granted, that's in Last of Us too, but Last of Us also has monsters that are going to come out and get you.
Yeah. So here's the funny thing about we were talking about the Second Amendment, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So all of Western Europe fucked. Russia fucked. A lot of other countries, Asian countries that don't allow personal handguns and personal firearms, fucked. United States, we'll be fine. So the thing about, we're not all going to live.
Right. Oh,
but you better believe that when the world comes back from this, if it ever does, America will rise again, because we're the ones that had guns. We're the ones that have weapons, and we're the ones that are just a little bit more crazy than everyone else.
For me, like, my zombie apocalypse plan never comes down to getting a gun. It's always like, I want to get a bat, I want to get a crowbar, I want to get some kind of blunt force trauma weapon that I can take off a head with. You know what I mean? Really fuck somebody up in the head. That's my thing.
Yeah, you got to get all close to them though and shit like
Sure. Well, I mean, I've never shot a gun before. It's not like just finding the gun and like unlimited ammo. Well, like, unlimited would help me, but you know what I mean? Like, I'm not gonna
get that unlimited ammo code.
Yeah. Unlimited ammo. My little bandana floating in the wind. So what's your plan right now? Right now, outside lands is going on over there in the park. Zombie outbreak happens. We hear it on the. We don't even know. We see we think it's just normal homeless people walking down the street being assholes, but it turns out to be zombies.
Right. Well, we kill Portillo.
I know.
Because he's loud.
I know.
And we probably eat him too eventually.
Sure.
We save him.
See, that's my whole thing. Is in like the first stage, do we have to do it? Like when it's like just happening?
Well, it's either we do it immediately or we're gonna have to do it in the moment. Like you're not gonna have time. Like I'm just gonna stab Portillo.
See, that was like I try to have a plan for everywhere I live. And so in my old place when I was in the high rise, right, I was just gonna hole up in the high rise. Of course, you plug your drains, you fill them with water before the water gets cut off, so you have all this water there ready to go. And then when it was like, for sure, we're fucked, there's zombies, like, they're really everywhere, and like somehow they're getting in the building at some point, that's when I was gonna toss Portillo over the balcony. And I was like 14 floors up. I figured that was the easiest way for him to go like that way, and then for me to let him go, right? Because like now you're talking about like, killing him in this place, because we have to. You hear him, you see him in the show. You hear the doors outside, you hear somebody walks by, starts barking. We can't have him alerting anybody, any walkers, any clickers, or anything like that. So I don't. But now I gotta sit there and figure out how I'm gonna kill my own dog. I can't throw him out anywhere, you know what I mean? Like, it's not as easy as it used to be.
Yeah, I love that you were gonna just throw him off a balcony. That's the best.
It was like a Band-Aid for me, and he would have no idea what was happening, and it'd be over like that for him.
That's so. I just see it and it's funny.
Only because you love him so much.
So yeah, I mean, it would be tough. I mean, first of all, I wish I would be back in New York. That would be much rather be there than here.
Yeah.
And.
Why? What about it?
Well, my dad's my dad's a funny dude.
So you want comedy in the zombie apocalypse?
Well, he's really into like camping, and I don't want to say survival because like that's not really what he's into, but he's into like outdoorsman kind of things, and like kind of likes when the power goes out, and kind of like
just fucking digs it.
I remember we lived in my dad moved up to New Hampshire for 1 year when I was up there in private school playing hockey.
Yeah.
And kind of just living up there with my mom and. I remember we had like a horrible blizzard and the power went out for like 4 days in New Hampshire, and it was fun. It was like fun to be with my dad. He had like all this kind of cool camping gear in our house, and we were just reading books and kind of. Anyway, like I just feel like he's a good dude to be with.
Sure.
Like for that kind of thing, I think like my dad. I always say my dad, who's like a retired New York City firefighter, and he's like in his early 60s now, like will very easily outlive me. Like, no doubt about that.
He's not eating fucking jars of.
No, he's like a vegetarian and like exercises a lot every day and like takes good care of himself. He's spiritually like very.
So he's literally the complete opposite of you.
Yeah.
Okay.
We are very similar politically, and
okay.
And I my dad's actually the person I'd like to most be like, but I'm just very far away from being like my dad. But anyway, being back there, and and then we have to get guns, and we have to get food and survive. And I feel like Long Island's a fortified position, because there's only one way in, and that would be across the bridges, which the military would probably destroy. So Long Island would be fine. Plus, we have like a heritage of fishing and things of this nature, farming on eastern Long Island. So we are self-sustaining.
See, for me, for here, right, it starts off. I think we have a security gate on the front door. However, I don't enjoy that the backyard is so accessible as far as like there's a lot of windows back there. So the first thing I would do obviously is block the stairwell here. We're on the second floor. Then go through the back and like I not only board up the windows we have back there, we have those sliding doors or whatever. Somehow like take out the deck so you couldn't even get right up to them, because that's a big problem for me right now as far as that. So that would be like step one here. I would hold out to kill Portillo here. Again, I'd plug up the drains, try to get a lot of water standing.
That's an old nuclear war trick.
Yeah.
So that's even in Alas Babylon, which is a really old, 50-plus-year-old book about nuclear war.
Okay.
That you should read.
Okay, I'll get right on it.
It's very good. Very, very good book. about a nuclear war, and then the guy in Florida is surviving with like his people in his neighborhood.
Now again though, if the cordyceps, or like even if you want to go 28 days later, zombies showed up with their sprint and stuff, I would kill myself immediately.
Oh, I wouldn't kill myself.
I'm not gonna win. I'm not gonna win that fight.
I would try to survive. I mean, I'm not one of these. I'm not Joel. I'm not gonna actually live. But I'm not gonna go down like a bitch.
No,
you know
I would
what I mean?
totally.
There's no way that's happening. I'm not going down like a bitch.
Straight down like a bitch. Like
No,
because
no way.
we're never gonna beat those zombies that are running and stuff. We are never going to beat. They never get tired. They're never going to get winded.
You see, but that's where the whole zombie thing falls apart, and that's why it's boring and stupid. That's why the Chimera were much more interesting in Resistance, or like just an alien invasion generally is much more interesting than the zombie stuff. Like, like this is what I'm interested in The Walking Dead. This is why I'm specifically interested in the lore of The Walking Dead, and that they never talk about because they have no idea how to explain anything. Is why, at what point, kinetically, does a zombie just not able to move anymore? Like it doesn't get sustenance. Like at some point they just biologically cannot survive anymore. Like it doesn't make any sense. This is like what really bothers me about the whole. Even if you just suspend disbelief and imagine that a zombie outbreak could happen.
Yeah.
And cordyceps happens in the insect world, so it's not like that's just about like leaping to humans. I mean, I don't think that's gonna happen. But if you just suspend your disbelief, right? And then there are runners or, clickers in The Last of Us that have been like that for years, 10, 20 years, some of them, right?
Yeah.
The bloaters get really big,
Right,
and
right.
they're like, they've been like that since the beginning. How are they surviving without eating? How are they, like it just doesn't make any sense. If they're moving and they're using energy and they're expending energy and stuff, then they must restore that energy. Like just biologically, it doesn't make any sense.
Sure. You
Like,
can starve them out.
Yeah, like
Which
eventually
starts to happen in
like,
28 days later.
Yeah, and in The Walking Dead, like you assume that has to happen eventually. Like these guys are just like walking around, like you can't survive like this forever. It just doesn't make any sense. Like
Sure,
just because you're a zombie doesn't mean you don't have to eat for 20 years. Like that doesn't.
Yeah, well, and they eventually rot too. There's a chance. That's why I'm saying you got a chance with the Walking Dead zombies. Cordyceps, you're gonna lock yourself in, but they're still gonna be out there everywhere.
The problem is that people are turning constantly. It's not like they all turned at one time. So
Right.
So like you would assume they were waiting them all out as a group.
Yeah.
You're waiting them out in waves. And some of the clickers, well, the runners in The Last of Us are the most recently infected ones, so you assume that happened, a few years ago at the most.
Yeah.
And what's most fucked up is that they know that they're infected.
Yeah,
in The Last of Us.
that's it's a living nightmare. I don't like that world at all. That's why I'd kill myself right away. My best friend back home always makes the joke that I'm always one power outage away from killing myself. That the power would just go out, and I'm like, this is it. Like,
I'm just disappointed that you go down like that. I wouldn't go down like that.
I mean,
like
it wouldn't be immediate, like I saw it on the thing, but I mean, like when they're beating down the doors, and I'm like, well, we got nothing. Like that's when I'd probably be like,
no, I'd let them just take me out.
no, fuck no. Especially you're talking about like the cordyceps zombies. So you're gonna be one of those guys walking around.
No. Because think about this, right? Think about The Walking Dead. I don't remember the guy, the big fat guy that got left behind at the school. Otis.
Yeah.
Right. They all mauled and attacked him. Like he's not going to turn. He's done.
But
right?
but I'm not.
Like
yeah.
so if they're like we're talking about like you get bit in a cat like Tess in The Last of Us, like it's bit in a very casual way, right?
Yeah. Spoilers.
And like she gets bit and she turns. It's not like if the runners attacked her like as a group, she wouldn't turn because there wouldn't be any Tess left.
But I don't want to go out getting eaten alive.
But like you could even like they're coming through the door, right?
Yeah.
And you maybe could take a few out, and then when they're coming, you just kill yourself.
Oh yeah, okay. Then we're
at least like take some of them out with you.
Okay.
See, this is what I'm disappointed in.
I'm
is
down
that,
with
like,
that. I'm down with
at
that.
least
I'm down
help
with that.
like
I'm down
humanity to like do something, Greg.
Sure. Okay.
Strap
We're on the
a
same
bomb to your body and run in the middle of it. Do something. And if you're gonna kill yourself, I mean, at least do it for everybody.
That's a good point. Me and Portillo out there. One final walk. We call it.
Strap. That's a great idea. Take Portillo's. This is what you're gonna do. You're gonna make Portillo a suicide vest.
Okay.
You're gonna put frag grenades on Portillo all around him.
Like the hit movie Swordfish. We put ball bearings on him.
Right. You're gonna take his toy and throw it.
Yeah.
Towards the zombies. Now he has no idea because he can't see and he's also stupid. So he has no idea that these things are dangerous. He's gonna run towards them just to get the toy, and then he detonates.
That's a good point actually. That would solve the problem of it being fast for him and everything else.
That's it.
All right.
Some might call him a domestic terrorist, but I'd call him a hero for doing that.
I mean, what, the terrorist against zombies? Like, okay, he did the right thing. It's fine. So there you go. Thank you, Exo Deuce Zero, for figuring out how to kill my dog in a zombie apocalypse in the most beneficial way for everybody. That was a good one. I like that one a lot.
Just like I did with I feel so bad. Like I have a fucking shitload of Nintendo Powers, and from the late 80s all the way to like 1998 or 1999. And I go through them sometimes, or like my old EGMs or PSMs, and I just like cut so much shit out of these magazines, man. Like I used to have in high school, especially. I had like a whole wall in my room that was just game ads,
like cool ads for games.
Yeah, me too. For me, it was all Nintendo Power. Those like
The
the
posters?
fold-out posters. My
Yeah.
room was just covered in them.
Yeah. I wish I didn't do that. I'm like, why am I putting advertisements on my wall? So there were really cool ads in the 90s for games, but like every Squaresoft ad and
I miss those times though. I feel like there's never going to be another time like that for kids when like you were so cut off from everything that when a magazine came, you were stoked to see what that fold out was going to be.
It's
Never gonna
different,
know what was
though.
gonna be on the next page.
Yeah, I mean, like that is definitely one of my greatest memories of my life. Like that is what
Like
everything's
you
about.
even
That's why
just
I'm at
saying
where
that is
I'm here.
awesome.
Yeah.
To me,
Yeah,
it makes me think about being a kid.
exactly.
Yeah, no
And
one.
it's good, man.
It's impossible. It's like Game Informer still exists, and a few of these other like kind of nerd magazines exist, but they don't have the same power anymore at all. Not only in terms of circulation, but in terms of the power of appearing in your mailbox. Like you said, like when I got, in the 1992, 1993, when I got a Nintendo Power, like my life stopped
Yeah.
Yeah.
for like an entire day.
Dean's
And
so
I would-
excited to get a new EGM.
Yeah, and it's like I don't know what the fuck any of these games are. I would read every word of every
Exactly.
page.
I would go back and read the reviews of the games
Yeah.
that I don't care about, but
It was something
Oh, yeah.
special. It's impossible to relate to that if you didn't grow up in that era because it's just not like that anymore. Now we have sites like IGN that IGN existed back then too.
Ruins everything.
But like where it's just like everything like PS4 sold 7 million units. 10 minutes later, it's on the site. If that happened in the middle of a cycle for a magazine, you'd wait 2 weeks and you would never know. That happened
Yeah.
unless you were reading. A nerdy forum on a corner of the internet somewhere. Like I love that kind of shit, man. I do miss that. And I used to get a fucking ton of magazines in the mail.
Yeah.
Star Wars Insider, EGM, Nintendo Power, all like nerdy ass like history magazines and like all, and that was awesome. And then you'd like pour through them, and then you bring them to school and read them at lunch. Toy Fair was another one.
Oh, Toy Fair was so good.
And
Zach the Malamute.
I love
I
Toy
still have a
Fair.
lot of the only magazine that I ever actually thought about subscribing to, and my mom wouldn't let me because it was
Maxim.
way too expensive. No, was Next Gen. Remember that magazine?
Next Generation was awesome.
It was
really slick, big.
it was big.
magazine.
It had that cool
The
cover
cover.
to
Oh,
it. That paper.
see, another thing is the OPM with its
The demo
discs.
disc, that was
like,
always
that was
huge.
such a game
Oh,
changer.
yeah.
Like, and that's another thing. In the same way you'd read all these things over and over, like demo discs back then, you'd play so many games
PC
over and
gamer.
over that sucked. Like I remember I played the 102 Dalmatians game
Yeah.
a million times just because that was the demo of the month and I wanted to beat all the things on it, and that was awesome.
Yeah, that was cool. I remember with PSM, my buddy got the first issue of PSM was Final Fantasy VII was on the cover. I think it was 97, and I had just got my PlayStation at that time for Final Fantasy VII, and I went to his party. We played hockey on the same team. Went to his party. This is awesome magazine. I was going through it and it had the lid cover. You guys remember the lid covers for PS1? So every episode, every issue of PSM came with a new lid cover.
yeah.
And the first one was like that smiley face, which was like their logo. And then every month you'd get a new one. And I would take I got PSM for like ever until I was in college. And I only paid for it for 1 year. They just kept sending it to me. I have no idea. I paid $12 for that.
Hard to believe that business model isn't working.
Well, I don't know why they never billed me again. They just never did. I paid $12 for it in 1997 and never
They
paid
saw
for it
something
again.
special in you.
You're gonna get a huge bill now.
I don't think they exist anymore. I love those guys though. Some of my favorite writers. And I would take the lid cover every month and put it on top of my PS1. And then like years later, like my PS1 would just be like another half an inch
Super
tall
stacked.
because it was like all these. And still on my door at home, my dad redid my room and like painted over all my shit because I used to write on my walls and like do all this crazy stuff. And like I had like a whole wall. I had like a huge 311 logo on it that I drew.
Of course.
That was behind my drum set in my room. And but the one thing he left was on my door handle is like the little smiley face logo from PSM, like one of the
Nice.
first PSMs, and it's like still on my on the center of the thing. And I look at that, I'm like, man, that was such a great magazine and a great time. Like I trusted them. Like
Yeah.
people trust us, like I
Yeah.
really trusted them, and they turned
Yeah.
me on to so many good games.
I love the covers, the art where it'd be
Yeah,
like,
they would do, like,
an
proprietary
original
art,
art piece
yeah.
for it. Oh man, that was
Man,
so good.
So I used to be heavily into PC gaming back when I was a kid. And I was, I told you guys stories of like how I used to have to like boot up my computer a special way to make sure I shut down all non-essential functions so like I could just keep enough processing power to run the games. And one of the things I remember being heartbroken about was because when you're a PC gamer, by the way, it was there's a limit to how long you had because eventually things moved so fast that your system just wouldn't work anymore. It wasn't like you got console gamers who were like, oh, it's so cool, everything has to work for my console. No, I mean like I remember getting
drivers and executables and
get new graphics cards and all these things, and that was before they even made new graphics cards or a graphics card. And so I remember I used to get these discs from, I think it was PC Gamer. Was it PC Gamer? Yeah, it was PC Gamer, and there was a game I think called like Fade to Black or something like that, which I thought was the coolest thing on the planet because it was a legitimate third-person shooter, which I hadn't seen that many of, and it was for the PC. And I tried to play it, and I tried as hard as humanly possible to get my system to run it, and it just wouldn't do it.
Yeah, that brings me back to the early days of emulators, when the internet made it seem so easy to be able to play Super Mario RPG, which I never owned. And I was like, I rented it a bunch of times for Blockbuster, but I was too young to understand how to really play it. And when I got older, I was like maybe 13. I was like, oh my God, this is going to be awesome. Could never figure out like how to get ROMs playing and do all this shit just because.
Did you use SNES 9X or whatever it was
Yeah,
called?
exactly.
Yeah, and Nesticle. Those were like
Nesticle.
those were. I remember with an Apple. I had an Apple II emulator, and you had to run something on your computer to make your computer run slower. Do you guys remember this? It was like a thing that would like cut the processing power of your computer so that the games in the Apple II emulator wouldn't run like a mile a minute. I don't know like what it was called. It was like something you had to like specially do to your computer, like to your system. This was in the 90s.
The overclocking? Is that what you're talking about?
No, that would be the exact opposite, right?
No, but I mean with overclocking though, you could set it lower too.
Yeah, I guess that's like it was something that like would eat your processing power. Do something. I'm not very technical. Where like it would make the Oregon Trail, whatever the fuck you were playing, Number Munchers. Would like would not like run like crazy because it was made for like a really slow computer. That was good. Those were good times. I haven't messed with emulators in a long time since my PSP was hacked and I had an NES emulator on that. And that was the last time I ever messed with them because I have all these cartridges.
PSP, the day that got hacked was like the best Christmas in my life, because then all of a sudden it's like I have every one of my childhood games in my hands, and it was so good.
Yeah,
like to
PSP
this
was
day,
good.
PSP is still my like go-to portable of choice.
Wow, nice.
Just because I can play all my favorite games.
Okay.
All right, post-show rambling time. So I've had to really kind of come face to face lately with isolation. Like, one of the hardest times in my life was I was really spinning my wheels in my hometown. I really was like, I need to get out of here. I need to go achieve something in life. Like, I was just going nowhere. I had worked at the same job for a long time. I had never had a girlfriend. I was in my early 20s. I was like, this is fucking bananas, man. Like, there's no way I suck this much at the world. Like, come on. So I had to force myself into change. So I moved to the West Coast. I moved to Vancouver all by myself. And it ended up being like an incredibly transformative and excellent time in my life. But those initial, 3 months maybe, so hard, so brutal. Some of the worst times I've ever had. And it is just because I lived by myself and I didn't know anyone. And I mean, there's a reason why solitary confinement is a punishment, It's like, it's so hard, it's so brutal. I remember just being so at a loss of like, I don't know what to do here, that there was this church I would always walk by near my apartment. And I started really thinking about going to church. And I never quite did, but I never would have thought that would even cross my mind. But it's like, I need to be around people. I need to know some people. Like, I cannot do this. Now, 10 years later, sort of a similar thing where I'd just been living in the same apartment, doing the same stuff for like 3 years. I mean, I've been in Toronto for 4 years now and never had a girlfriend. Like, kind of again, just like, what is happening? I had that nice stretch in the middle where my life was pretty cool. And I just fallen back into this weird little pit of doing nothing. So I was going to kind of try to recreate that. This time I was going to move to the East Coast. I was going to move to Newfoundland and not know anybody and like force myself to rebuild and start again. But I think I just, somewhere in my subconscious, was like, don't do that again. That was so awful. Like, don't do that. There has to be a better way for this. And I kind of threw myself into this relationship that really didn't work, but it was enough to, at least it kept me in Toronto. And I ended up living out on the outskirts of town all by myself. So, I mean, I'm still in Toronto. I still know people. But it's like a mid-step. I didn't just move away and know no one. I'm still in Toronto, but the reality of my day-to-day is that I just don't see people very much. And, man, like last week, I barely saw anyone the whole week. And at the same time, since it was January, it's like New Year's resolutions, I gave up porn and gave up masturbating. And I did it. I recorded a whole podcast about it that I didn't put in this podcast feed because it was just really sad. Like, not having that sort of escape, like, you know, it's kind of like drugs, jerking off all the time. It's just releasing dopamine into your head and, you know, easing your stress and pain and torment. And when I took that away, it was like, man, I really had to face up to just how miserable things are day to day. But it's been valuable too. Like, spending this time by myself has kind of really made me have to face up to stuff. Like, at the end of that week, man, I don't know, I went to see a movie and I ended up just sitting behind the movie theater and just kind of having a nervous breakdown. It was fucking terrible. But the nice thing about things being that shitty, you know, even if you don't exactly learn what path you should be on, it's so clear what path you should not be on. That, like, this is not working. This is not realistic. This is not a sustainable way to live. So I set up a bunch of stuff of, like, I'm gonna go start babysitting my friend Joel's kids a couple of times a week to have some kind of structure and, you know, something I have to do and where I'll go and hang out with kids, you know? I mean, that was one of the best times of my life, was looking after my niece. Like, that, just nobody needs you more than kids, you know? That's a good feeling. I set up a thing I'm going to call my mom every week because I don't talk to my parents very much. And it's going to be a podcast. Like, it's a weird idea. It might be a really boring podcast. I don't know. But it's just to do it, to, like, give me that reason to do it. Like, I have to do it. And I started looking into volunteering stuff you can do in Toronto. I haven't got that all sorted out yet, but I think that would be a cool thing to do. Just find places where I can go volunteer and be around people and be part of a group. I mean, I guess I could get a job, but I really just don't want to get a job that's just some dumb job working at a grocery store or something. Like, it's such a waste of time, you know? It's just, surely I can find something more useful to do for the world. And even if that means not getting paid for the time being, I think that's fine. Like, I just feel like it would be a lot more valuable to do things that are more directly related. I mean, I even looked into that a bit, I guess, of, like, what if I was going to work in an old folks home, and, like, how many years of nursing school, and what is that actually like? And I listened to a lot of clips on YouTube of there's nurses that just vlog about their lives. Doesn't sound very fun. Like, again, it's just a job. Where if I just go volunteer, like, at least it's a better way to get a taste of what this stuff is like, and so much lower pressure. It's like I can just go hang out with some old people and talk to them. I don't need to worry about their medication and their bed sores and all this crazy stuff that is way over my head. So I'm making steps towards just not letting myself become so isolated again, because it was awful. It was so awful. And I've started to realize a lot, kind of like what I said earlier, of, like, I believed so hard in individuality and politically and stuff, and, you know, like, it makes sense. Like, you shouldn't be shackled to other people. You should be able to make your own choices. But that's become so weird in North America, where it's taken this turn of, like, it's too far. At least with my family. And I feel like it's this way with a lot of people's families. It's just all falling apart. There was very little affection shown to me and my brother when we were kids. It was all about, like, don't you cry, you know, just all that type of fucking bullshit. And very little connection to the family at large and the different generations. And I hardly know my cousins and my extended family and my neighbors. I didn't know my grandparents very well. I didn't know anybody. I don't know anyone. I don't know my dumb parents that well, you know? I feel like we've really gotten ourselves into this kind of awful situation in North America, where it is like you're supposed to just, the idea of looking after yourself and individuality has just gone bananas, where it's like there's not even any help anymore. And I've started to realize, like, it's not so weird that I had such a hard time interfacing with this and surviving in this society. Like, it's not how it was supposed to be, you know? You're supposed to be around a community. They're supposed to help shepherd you, you know, and apprentice-size you and help you and guide you. You're not supposed to have to do all this stuff by yourself. And I can't do it by myself. I just can't. I mean, I'm alive, but I just can't really make a go of it. I can occasionally pull some big Hail Mary fucking pass and pull off some big weird thing. But as a sustainable day-to-day way to live, it's just miserable, and it doesn't work, and I hate it. So I started looking back at my life, especially after I had that dream of just hanging out with these guys from this podcast. And it made me think of the different times in my life where when I was in elementary school, I was in this French school. And there weren't that many kids in French school, so it was just the one class. And for all 6 years, it was the same 30 or so kids. So I knew all those kids, like, really well. And that's when I first sort of started to realize that I'm kind of like a joiner, because I was friends with everyone in that class. But not everyone in that class was friends with each other, but everyone was friends with me. And that's kind of a pattern that's kind of held up for most of my life. That's like the position I'm supposed to be in. I'm sort of supposed to be a middle person, a joiner, like a connective tissue type of person. And then in junior high, they randomly spread our classes around, and I got stuck somehow away from everyone. Like, everybody else from that class got put into other classes, and it was just me. Me and like 2 or 3 girls that I, weren't like my greatest friends. I was almost all by myself with all new kids, and it was horrible. It was one of the worst years of my whole life. Like, it just was really bad. And like, looking back at it now, that's clearly a huge reason why. This whole support structure of these people that I knew, they were all just gone. Boom, everyone's gone. Just come home to my parents, they would just tell me to not cry about stuff, Not very helpful. Teachers that weren't helpful. Like, I really feel like that's just the way this fucking ridiculous North American society is it's just like no help at all. Sort everything out by yourself. It's fucking so terrible. And that slowly started to come together a little through junior high and high school. I started to meet people and pull together little groups, and it wasn't as bad, but it never quite worked out. Like, my high school was enormous. It's one of the biggest schools, and it's just so many kids and just a flood, and no one could give a fuck. And then when the time came to make that leap to go to the next step, like university, I couldn't do it. After all these years of incredible stress at school, it's like, forget it. I'm not doing this. And again, like, no real guidance, no real help, no way to usher me in or shepherd me through this period. Instead, it's just like, well, I'm just not going to do it. And that's that. But I did form a pretty good group in my neighborhood. Like, we had all these guys that would hang out at my house because it was a really big house, and we started our own rap group, like just a weird musical group, which had like 9 or 10 members, I think, at the height of it. And we had all these computers set up in the house, and we would play Quake and StarCraft. And that went on for a few years, and it was super fun and super great, and we just knew all these people. And then I moved out of my parents' house eventually and to a house, and that was super awesome too. There was like 4 of us that lived in the house, but people would come over all the time. Like, we didn't even lock the doors. People could just come over and hang out and crash on the couch all the time, and it was really, really fun. And just that communal living, that group life, like, it just fit me so much better. But I was still ultimately kind of going nowhere, because it's just... Like, that's what's interesting, too, is there's this psychologist, Gabor Mate, and I was listening to a bunch of his talks about how in the North American school system, because there's just not enough adults. Like, it used to be that in, like, hunter-gatherer societies, the kids would be with the parents all day, all the time, and if not the parents, then some aunts and uncles or just people in the community or whatever. Whereas now, there's so little time that a teacher can spend with individual kids, and then at home, the amount of time parents spend talking to their kids, it's sick, man. It's like 7 minutes a week. It's unbelievable, of just like actual talking that's not just like sit down, shut up, and eat your food. So essentially, it's just a civilization of children raising other children, like that mentorship of adults helping kids grow up is just gone. And it just slipped away, and it's like no one fucking noticed. And if you ever want to know what a like technologically advanced society is like with no guidance, this is it. This is what happens. We're in it right now. So it was similar in that house. It was super fun with all these people hanging out. But again, it was just a bunch of dudes. I barely knew any women in my life, and no one was really able to help me because they're all my age too. They're all in their early 20s. They're all just trying to get by day to day. We're all just living in the same house playing StarCraft. So that's when I really pushed it and was like, all right, I got to move away. And then in Vancouver, I met a girl and made friends out there, and everything was cool. And then when I broke up with her, I came back home and I lived with my cousin. And if it was just me and him, that would have sucked. But he had a daughter. So for like the year, I was like the live-in babysitter for this kid. And I'd never been around kids before, again, because like our society is just so stratified and so disconnected and so weird. And I loved it. I was so good with her, and I loved looking after a kid. And it felt so much better than all this other dumb stuff I was doing, working at a coffee shop or a movie theater, all this. It was just utter waste of time. And I never knew that, and I never experienced it before. But eventually I felt that draw again of like, what am I doing? Like, I gotta go out. I gotta make something of my life. All this fucking insane shit that it was so misguided. So I moved back west again, and I couldn't make a go of it the second time, and I couldn't really build a group, and I was really miserable. So I moved to New York because I would listen to podcasts when I was in the projection booth at this movie theater I worked at, just being all lonely and stuff. And podcasts were brand new at the time, in the mid-2000s. But that was like the first time I had like surrogate sort of friends, like to see what that was like, because it would just be up in this projection booth and all by myself. But I could listen to, in particular, it's this show called The Keith and the Girl Show, and they would have all these different guests, and back then especially the guests were mainly their friends, and you just got this sense of their life, and here's our life, and here's our friends, and here's what we do every day. They just came on and talked about what they did each day, and it was like my surrogate little group. So I got to know them a bit just from long distance, and they offered like, hey, if you want to move to New York, we can help you find a place. So I went to New York for a couple of years, and theoretically that should have been the greatest group of all. I mean, that's the hugest group. There's like, suddenly 50,000 people listening to me blab on their show, and just like a little tiny taste of pseudo fame or whatever. But it just didn't work right for me because it just wasn't the right group. Like, there's always people in every group that can't quite fit in, and it's so frustrating. I'm dealing with it right now in Toronto. Like, I know people that just won't they've just been a burr under the saddle for too long, and it's like you're just rubbing everyone the wrong way all the time. What the fuck is the matter with you? I'm trying so hard to hold on. I'm trying so hard to keep you in this loop, and you just won't stop being obnoxious dicks, Anyway, in New York, the thing with that is the head guy who was, instead of me being the center guy, it was someone else. I'd never done that before. I'd never been a part of someone else's group, and I just didn't like how things were run. It was just like the sword of Damocles hanging over your head, and just the amount of friends that they lost. It's crazy. Throughout the years of that show, just people keep leaving and leaving and leaving, and there's always someone else to replace them. But it wasn't about holding things together or understanding and friendliness. Instead, it was like, hey, let's go on our podcast and fucking insult the shit out of everyone that we have problems with. And I don't know, it's just their personalities, their weird New York personalities. Like, they don't see it, they don't understand, but that's what it was like, and it was no fun after a little while. So I moved to Toronto, and I made a new group here. And I guess basically all I'm trying to say with all these little stories is, and then, now I'm kind of trying to rebuild the group or trying to hold it together, even though I don't live with those guys anymore in Toronto. Or trying to find new people, but basically that's all I'm trying to say is when I look back over my life, it's like being part of a good community that supports you and helps you is the only way that I'm happy. It's the only way that I like being in this society, because I just don't care that much about the cars and the TV shows and the movies and the video games. Like, I could give a fuck, man. I could take them or leave them. It's not worth the price if the price is being isolated and lonely, like a lot of people seem to be. And it's just a random thing, but just having that dream this morning, it just really solidified it. I just woke up and I was like, holy shit. because I guess there's been, I mean, as podcasts kept growing and growing and growing, there's been a lot of those cases of like the GameSpy debriefings, or GFW Radio was this video game podcast, and then from there the GameSpy debriefings, and that turned into the Comedy Button, and now there's the GameOverGreggy show. Like, these just groups of people that just hang out and talk, and just having them in my ear all the time is like, when I'm not with my actual friends, it's like they're the fill-in friends. They're like filling that space in some way. And yeah, it's good to realize, like, now that I've had this second bout with ridiculous loneliness, and then looking back at all these times that I had all these groups, I mean, always just forming a new group, always being part of a group, and that's okay. Like, I was really raised to kind of believe that that wasn't okay, that it's like individuality and stand up for yourself. And it's like, why? Why are you doing this to me? Why are you training me to be miserable? It's not where my skills lie. It's not how I feel happy. It's not how I'm productive. It just makes life so much harder, and I don't know what the fucking supposed benefit is. It's like everyone's still just terrified of communism or something. Like, we cannot have groups. And it's like, fucking relax. It's okay. That's over, you know? We don't need to worry about that anymore. I think maybe it's not so bad if we fucking have each other's back a little bit. So I'm not quite sure where to go from here because, yeah, my little group in Toronto got kind of fucked up. That relationship I threw myself into that I was talking about earlier that didn't work really fucked shit up. I mean, it just kind of broke things up and made the little group not the same anymore. But again, there's like members of that group that I would have had to fucking boot out anyway, because it's like I just can't take it anymore. That, you know, everyone would come to me because I'm the middle guy, and it's like, what is up with this guy? What is up with that guy? What is wrong with them? Why are they making everyone unhappy all the time? And I try to work with it, but eventually you just got to cut people loose. It's like, I don't know what else to do. But yeah, I kind of cut myself loose this time. And it sucks. It's terrible. I hate it. So there's my little ramble. I don't know if that was useful to anyone or whatever. Only tangentially related to anything else in this episode. But that's how this podcast is, man. This is a weird podcast. It's just whatever weird thing I want to talk about every week. So I hope you liked it. My stuff is at keithcourage.com. And if you liked any of those clips from Kinda Funny, it's youtube.com/kindafunny. kindafunny.com. You know, I was just thinking about something where I was looking for payphones that are indoors because it's super cold in Canadian winter. And I think I mentioned that I'm going to start this podcast where I'm just going to talk to my mom every week for 20 minutes. And I always call her from payphones because I don't have a proper phone plan. And it seems weird in a way. Like, I was thinking, like, I wonder, is there something disingenuous about having to have a podcast to talk to your mom every week? Like, shouldn't I just be able to talk directly, just me and her? But I just won't. I mean, it's been, my whole life has proved that won't happen. I mean, I won't call her. If we're just hanging out, if I'm at home, yeah, sure, I talk to her all the time. Whereas if there's a podcast, I'm already thinking about, I could ask her about this, or I could tell her about this thing, and there's all this stuff. And it's not just that, it's like I might start a podcast when I'm babysitting my friend Joel's kids, do like the toddler interview, just interview them every week, and with the 2-year-old especially, it'll be cool because you'll be able to hear him, you know, learn more words and get better at talking. And it's always kind of been like this, like, I have a wrestling podcast, which I wouldn't see my friend Jason nearly as much, except that we do this podcast. My podcast, The Vinyl Countdown, that was just an excuse for all of a bunch of people. We all would go hang out at a bar. Like, you know, we hung out 200 times more than we would have if we didn't do those 200 episodes. So even though it seems like having a conversation for a podcast is in some ways sidestepping the normal conversation, but maybe that's okay. Like, maybe one-on-one super deep conversations are hard to have because that's not necessarily the best way to communicate. Like, even if there's just a phantom audience in your mind while you're talking. I mean, I really do find it easier to talk to people. And suddenly, instead of talking and conversing being like this duty, this job that I gotta do, it suddenly becomes way more interesting and I get way more invigorated. And maybe that's also related to this idea of community in some way. Like, even if it's just a phantom community that's not literally there, but knowing that someone is going to hear it. Even my super unpopular podcasts have at least a couple dozen fucking people that, listen. Maybe that is kind of a more natural way to communicate. Like, maybe that ties in with this idea of community. Is that there's supposed to be a sort of consensus. There's supposed to be a group. There's supposed to be at least a mindfulness of the larger group dynamic when you're trying to express ideas, or you're trying to talk to someone, or you're trying to learn about them, or you're trying to get their opinions about things. I don't know, maybe. I think that kind of makes sense to me. And again, it's like one of these things like, yeah, okay, maybe I have a hard time relating to people if it's not through the podcast interview format. But maybe that's okay. Like, why am I beating myself up about something that's just received knowledge that's just been passed down of like, this is how things are supposed to be, when all physical evidence in my life points a different way. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. I'm rambling at this point. So I'm going to stop talking now.